if I had to say something a little bit brash, it's that health coaches, people in our space, we're just combating the definition of madness, which is doing the same thing over and over and over, expecting a different outcome. We're just trying to get people learning the way they're supposed to and experimenting and troubleshooting and giving them informed consent where they deserve it.
Yeah, 100%. At the end of the day, it's not working. We all know it's not working. And this is what people need to understand. And this is what we have to do with these podcasts. Just spread awareness. We've always said this, myself and Victoria have always said this. We're never going to force this on anybody. We just want you to listen to these people's stories. These are real people. This is real evidence, and you can make up your own mind. Welcome to another episode of the Carnivore Evolution podcast. Rance, how are you, sir?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing very, very well. Thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me. Excited.
What part of the world are you from?
Right in the middle of the U.S., Oklahoma City, Oklahoma.
Very nice. You living there long?
Oh, all my life since birth.
Really? Have you ever emigrated outside the States or always there?
This has always been home base, but I've traveled all over the Pacific Rim. So I've been to places like Australia, China, New Zealand, Japan, and so on.
Okay, so we're going to talk a little bit about Carnivore shortly, but give us some backstory on you first.
Oh, me, where to begin? I will say that, I guess I'll just throw it right out there. I've been carnivore for 8 years now, and that all started with a 10-year battle with things such as type 2 diabetes, hypertension. I had a lot of symptoms of bipolar disorder. That's something that my mom was diagnosed with. I know I'm just throwing it all out there, but she ended up fighting cancer 3 times in my youth. She ultimately lost the 3rd time. So there was a lot of turmoil there that I think affected my health and why it went downhill into, my 20s and mid 20s really. But I discovered carnivore through Dr. Sean Baker, as I'm sure a lot of people have, and that was kind of my Hail Mary because doctors couldn't really help me out. Essentially the best thing I got in terms of advice from doctors was take a vitamin D pill. And, maybe there's some benefit there, of course, but that wasn't going to fix all my issues. But started carnivore, fixed a whole lot of issues, lost 70 pounds, turned into a totally different person. And, fast forward to today, I've been health coaching since 2019 and somehow landed myself into Dr. Baker's clinic working as a health coach on a care team over there.
Amazing.
So, yeah.
Absolutely fine. Okay, so when we go back to when you were a type 2 diabetic, what was the diet look like? What was the diagnosis? What was the information you were getting back then?
Oh, it was all over the place. I definitely went through kind of different eating pattern phases. They all were under the umbrella of standard American diet. But I had a depressive phase where it was nothing but 50-piece chicken nugget meals and a whole bunch of Bud Light. But there were also phases where, I know, kind of crazy to think back at. But I had many phases too where for a few months at a time, I would eat home cooked. So it looked like a lot of chicken and broccoli. And while technically I was eating lower carbohydrate, lower processed, I definitely was under eating fat. I was still staying away from that like the plague because everybody was telling me fat's bad. But it kind of shifted between highly processed for a few months and then home cooked, I guess, lean proteins and all the colorful vegetables that they tell you you're supposed to have. So I was quite a potato eater, and that was a tasty but rough time. So if that fills in the gaps on that.
And when you were going to see the doctors, what was the information that you were getting back then?
Oh, so my goodness, it seemed like everybody I encountered was just wholly unequipped to deal with what I was going through. The guidelines at the time, well, and I guess even today, were to avoid red meat, and kind of along the lines of eating a whole bunch of whole grain pasta, which is ludicrous in hindsight. But the guidelines, that's really all it was. Now, I will give them credit that they were focusing more on lifestyle. I never got to the point where insulin was pushed. Only had blood work done once, and there were no follow-ups, and that was always peculiar to me. But I had high blood sugar. I mean, I think my fasted was probably somewhere in the ballpark of 130. I don't know what that switches over to on on the other metric, the millimole. But that was an interesting time. I do know that they did take me somewhat seriously, which I know there's a lot of medical gaslighting where they're not listening to things like what I'm about to say. But, I was overweight. I was very fatigued. I had a lot of skin issues that I kind of look back and realized that had something to do with being diabetic and the other accompanying things going on. But I didn't get very much. I didn't get very much guidance. There was definitely no support in between doctor's visits, and I guess I can actually look back and be thankful that I wasn't pushed onto a bunch of medications. That's the silver lining. But I didn't have a lot of support and didn't have a lot of confident guidance from doctors because they didn't give me the feeling that they really understood what they were suggesting. It kind of seemed like they were reading off of a script.
Yeah. And did you do your own research into this, how this was happening, or like what brought you down this line into carnivore eventually?
So I did do a little bit of digging. I was familiar with keto before I was familiar with carnivore, and so I did watch a lot of videos. I did way too much reading on Reddit forums, which I'm understanding is maybe not always the best place to go, but
Funny.
I ended up barreling in the wrong direction with keto. I tried to do a plant-based keto, and it consisted of a whole lot of salads. I remember there was a lot of avocado involved. And it made me feel better for a time, but that was following a phase of 50-piece chicken nugget meals. So anything's going to feel better than that. But when I realized I kind of capped out at a point where I was feeling better than I was, but I just had this gut feeling I should be feeling better. I didn't think humans are supposed to feel how I'm feeling right now. I still had a lot of fatigue, and I remember very specifically, there was this burning in the back of the base of my skull and kind of a clicking periodically. It was kind of jarring, like a shock. And that was really bad during the chicken nuggets and alcohol era, but it got a lot better with 6 salads a day with a bunch of avocado and olive oil. But it didn't get better. I remember getting to the point where I was getting injured a lot in the gym, and that really opened my eyes to, maybe there's something I'm missing here. I don't think that if I'm doing what's right, I shouldn't feel this way. And another thing that kind of inspired me is that, back in that time period, maybe 2017, 2018, I ended up getting certified as a personal trainer, thinking that this is the way forward. Working out will cure everything. And there's no doubt that it helped. But when I started working with people and sharing information on, nutrition as well to support their efforts in the gym, I saw that what I was taught at the time and what I was practicing at the time was not helping them any more than me. And that's what kind of sent me down this path. Okay, there's something more here. And I will say I got pretty big. I was, sitting at just under 200 pounds, and I had quite a bit of muscle on my frame, but I was still metabolically reeling underneath. I got to the point I couldn't stay awake for more than a couple hours. I mean, I'd just crash on the couch periodically. And that was my moment where the depression, the anxiety, and really the symptoms of bipolar took me over, made me a person that I didn't like, and it was very difficult for my family. And that was the catalyst for digging for that Hail Mary. I typed in a bunch of these symptoms on YouTube, I recall. And that's what landed me on a video from Dr. Baker talking about the carnivore diet. And from there, the floodgates were open to, wait a second, the mainstream's not got the full picture. And that sent me to where I am now.
Could I ask a quick question? When you say you were plant-based keto, did you not consume any animal protein at that time?
Very, very low. I would say there were many days throughout the week, and this is recalling from memory, and I will say that I had a lot of persistent, really bad memory issues back during this time. But I would say 3 days out of the week, there wasn't really any meat in the diet. So very specifically, I use the terminology plant-based because there was still some meat, but it was very low. It was processed. It was like the little cubed deli meats that I would sprinkle occasionally on the salads.
And you made it very, very interesting about personal training, because we have something in common. I was the same. I was a personal trainer for over 30 years. And I used to get the comments saying to me like, listen, you're overweight, you don't look like a personal trainer. And I felt like I was under that microscope, because I had to put an awful lot of pressure on myself to look like a personal trainer, like pretty much every year. I could never relax.
Mm-hmm.
I never had that relaxed feeling around food. I never had that food freedom. I had to in order for me to market myself, I had to have the abs, I had to have the muscles. But nobody could see what was going on the inside. Nobody. And I used to get people saying to me, "Are you okay? You don't look right." And I used to convince people, like, look at me, I'm healthy. I work in this industry. Like, well, why would I have any problems? But like a lot of people could see it. A lot. And I had those anger issues, the mental health issues, energy was crap. I was going to bed regularly, having naps throughout the day. I was getting angry around food. It wasn't a good place to be in. And I was teaching this to people.
Right.
Now, how did you start Carnivore, though? Did you say you went down that path, but what did you do a little more specifically when you started Carnivore? How?
Well, I did all the wrong things. I will admit that. I wish I would have stuck to the video that I watched of Dr. Baker's, because what I specifically did is after I watched that video, I went and Googled keto flu, and I looked at, what are some solutions to the keto flu? And there was this girl who I don't even remember. It was a blog, and she said, well, I just took this shot glass and filled it mostly full of salt and some warm water. And I didn't know at the time there was a difference between any of the different kinds of salt. So I had Morton's iodized table salt.
Oh boy.
And I took that shot, and I felt horrible for probably about 24 hours. And bless my wife's heart, she also took the shot with me, and we were both just kind of miserable, gagging. We threw up. So I'll just say that that was a rough time, but I think one lucky break that I got, and I still don't know why I didn't just lean on what I saw in Dr. Baker's video, but I saw some information on Vince Gironda. I hope I'm pronouncing that right.
Mm-hmm.
And I went off of his protocol to get some idea of where to start. So I was eating a ton of eggs. I wish I would have leaned on beef, but I ended up eating a bunch of pork steaks. And it worked in that first 30 days. I might have felt horrific the first 5, maybe the first 7. But people at work started noticing that it was just dropping off. I think I dropped a solid 30 pounds in the first month. So that's kind of where I started. And then it was just a continuous troubleshooting and learning process in all the most painful ways in the following months.
Amazing. And you said, how long you say now? 8 years now?
8 years now. So
wow, that's a long time. No slip ups during that time at all? Just all strict Carnivore?
I want to be very open with that. So there have been slip ups, and I think I've equated it to, for example, if I ate 1,000 meals a year, 992 of them have been strict carnivore. So
yeah.
The slip ups, I will say, as an example, because I don't want to give off the impression that I'm perfect or anything by any means, but if it was a party or something, especially in the early days of Carnivore, I just was not mentally equipped to go into these scenarios and look weird, be an outsider. And so I'd participate in, the parties that we were going to with family. My wife is Puerto Rican, so a lot of the family members are Puerto Rican. And so we were having a lot of rice, beans, tortillas, chips, that kind of stuff. Granted, it was a lot cleaner than the stuff you're getting at the store. A lot of it was homemade. But those were very big wake-up calls to me early on, maybe in the first 2 or 3 years, that, wait a second, okay, I'm feeling good, I'm dropping weight, but when I eat this, it stalls me out, puts me right back to where I was, making me want to throw a fist into a hardwood door for no reason, which I have a few times before I went carnivore and fractured a bone in my hand twice. But in terms of other slip-ups, I would say when I was working a very tough job, driving the incognito armored truck, we had a lot of 12-hour days. I'd say early on when I was doing that job. And so I would be very tired when I get home. I think it's still a miracle that the majority of the time I was staying carnivore, but there would periodically be moments where the family was waiting for me and they'd ask, well, can we go out? Let's grab something. And at the time I thought, well, I've been investing in my health. I should be able to handle this. And time again during that period, I was proven wrong by my body, which is, okay, this is my signal to get back on track and stay on track.
Because you notice it very quickly, don't you, when you add these foods back in?
Yeah.
Straight away.
It's scary.
Absolutely. I mean, anything from a restaurant definitely hurts me.
Yeah, even a little bit of seed oil on your steak, you can notice it like that.
Notice it.
Yeah.
Straight away. I noticed that, like, I think it was about a year ago. We went out for steak in a steakhouse, and oh my God, I got this brain fog. I had these headaches, and I was looking at the steak, and I was like, okay, you must have cooked it in seed oil, because it was just a normal steak on a plate. But the minute I started eating it, I was in bits after, in bits.
So, Rance, what do you eat now? What's your diet look like now, or how has it progressed?
Yeah. Well, you've caught me kind of in the middle of a phase where I'm just trying to eat the same way as a lot of the people I serve, because yes, if everybody could eat ribeyes all day, every day, then that would be wonderful. But lately it's been a lot of hamburger patties, a lot of eggs, occasionally bacon. And that's because I really want to be able to relate to the current patient population that, my caseload that I've been assigned. I want to do what they're doing. But there's no doubt that, if it were up to me, I'd be eating at the very least more chuck steaks, which is, I think that's like the poor man's ribeye, and it just tastes good. But oh yeah, that's where I'm at.
And you've been in coaching now for how long?
Started early last year. I want to say a little over a year and a half now.
And who's your niche? Is it mostly men or women?
Mostly women.
Good stuff. Good stuff. And what are you dealing with? Weight loss, menopause, anything like that?
Oh, all of it. I mean, I think there's a list of 40 different conditions that we officially work on.
Amazing.
But it's
and what's been the best successful story you've worked with?
Oh man, there's one guy that comes to mind. I will say, just because there's so many people, there could be somebody out there with a story that parallels his or is even more miraculous, you could say. But we have a fellow that came on the program at 400 pounds. And I mean, he is 6'3", 6'4", but he, based on his past, perhaps what he was sitting at in college, 6'3", he should be probably sitting at closer to 200 pounds. Now,
yeah.
I will say that he has dropped, maybe in the last couple of months, he's dropped about 119 pounds.
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
My goodness. I would say.
Over what period of time?
Let me wind that back. So I've been working with him the past 2 months. I would say he's probably dropped about 40 pounds in those 2 months period. So I had to take a step back and think, like, wait a second, where did I mess up there? But he's been on the program for longer, and there has been gradual weight loss over that period of time. He's been with us for a few months. But in the 2 months of that time that I've been working with him, he's dropped, I want to say 40, maybe 45 pounds. I'd have to go back because we do keep detailed data on this. We actually have graphs that populate what their weight loss trends look like, and I can isolate it to a certain period. But I think that why his story is so crazy is because he was on omeprazole for probably, I want to say, in the ballpark of 20 years.
What is that drug, please? Tell us what that is.
Proton pump inhibitor, and if I had to just oversimplify it, he just hasn't been able to properly absorb what he's been eating all this time because his ability to absorb anything has been blunted by that omeprazole.
Wow.
And I think the miraculous part here, well, I guess it's really just science. It's not miracle, but getting him off of that, helping him absorb foods has been massive in just getting rid of his pain and helping him start losing weight again. It just facilitated this environment where he'd been at a snail's pace, and it just kind of started to drop off. Now, his mood between all the calls that we've shared was one of the biggest standouts, because when I first started working with him, he felt very hopeless. He sounded hopeless. He was about ready to give up. He was about ready to quit. Now, one of the things that kind of started opening his mind up to having some hope again was looking back at his trend. You know, it had been several months. Hey, look at this several months. You know, you've lost 60 pounds overall. Has it been slow? Yes. But let's take stock of where you've been, because it really does matter. And that was kind of the spark that allowed him to, I guess, pull from within and put that energy towards what his path forward looked like. And what that path forward looked like was really coordinating with our medical provider. So as coaches, we're paired up with medical providers over each patient. And there was this targeted effort to help him taper off of the omeprazole. And it was rough at times, because when you've been on it that long, it's definitely going to take your body some time to get used to doing what's been suppressed for so long. But by carefully, I guess, tapering up fats and tapering back this medication, which I think it's important for me to say, you know, work with a medical provider. You don't necessarily want to do that on your own, because there are some things that can happen if you don't have some supervision. But as we slowly tapered him off and tapered up fats, for example, his absorption went up, some of his pains went away, but then the weight falling off became consistent. It wasn't a guessing game anymore week to week. And now he's sprinting.
Wow.
Fantastic. Which that caught me off guard. And that was just a couple weeks ago that we had a call about that. And he told me, you know, I went for my normal morning walk and I just felt inclined to, and I started sprinting.
Wow.
Good for him. That's great.
Is he still on the medication, I presume, or is he off?
Oh, he's off now. He is
Amazing.
off now.
So that was over a 2-month period or longer?
No, getting off the medication, it was only 2 months.
Amazing. How much was he taking in much, or was he just taking in that?
Oh, I'm sorry.
Was he taking in much medication, or was it just the one that he was prescribed?
That's the only one that I was aware of. So, yeah, that's the only one that was charted that I can recall off the top of my head.
Yeah.
And again, apologies if I'm not super clear with my answers on some of this, just because there's so many people that I manage. It's kind of
and I think you made a very, very good point, Rance, because I always say this to people, like, if you're working with people, especially if they're on a lot of medication, even though we're not a big fan of doctors and prescribing medication, you need to work with them. You really do. You need to find a solution. Like, I'm always saying to them, like, listen, get me in contact with your doctor so I can tell him what you're going to be doing for me. I'm not going to be getting you off the medication, because, like, I usually get an awful lot of emails from clients, doctors, do this, and I'm like, okay, well, hang on a second. This person's coming to see me. I don't mind working with you, but you're not going to tell me what to do, how to look after this person the right way. I don't mind taking this person off the medication as long as it's their decision. I think that's very, very important. It has to be their decision whether they're going to come off it or not. It should never be the coach's decision, ever.
Well, Rance is working for Revero, aren't you? Isn't that Sean Baker's organization? And it
Yes.
is fully staffed with real medical doctors. So tell us a little bit about the relationship between you and their medical doctors. Can you influence what's going on? If you have an opinion, I would think that they're pro keto, pro carnivore.
Yes. So it is very collaborative. And I will say, I mean, I really got to give wonderful credit to our medical providers over there. I mean, we do have enough people that we cover all 50 states. And there's quite literally a small army of, you know, MDs, DOs, and nurse practitioners. But our efforts are very much team, just because, you know, two heads are better than one at the end of the day. And I will say that the conversations behind the scenes, they are very much back and forth. It is a brainstorming session. You know, the coach, because they're the ones on the ground working with the patient pretty much every single day, they're going to have a better finger on the pulse. And the medical providers at Revero, they recognize that. They praise us for it. You know, you guys are the ones in the trenches, and I'm very grateful to them for that. But if they have any questions about any specifics, they don't hesitate to reach out and ask. You know, if it's lifestyle related, they recognize, you know, there might be a gap that I have from my perspective. What's your take on it? So if, for example, there's a trajectory alteration to their care plan, or perhaps in very targeted cases, supplementation, that's something that I'm not afraid to go to the medical provider about and say, hey, what do you think? Is this something that, you think would be beneficial to them? And then maybe the provider will have a call with them and talk to them about that trajectory adjustment. So it's very collaborative. And the coaches do get a lot of respect in their role. Because I know out there in the medical space and outside of the medical space, coaches in a lot of ways are looked down upon as if they're nothing compared to a doctor. And I'm not suggesting that the jobs are remotely similar, but I do think there's a synergy there. I think that they go together very well, and that is evidenced by how we collaborate at Revero.
So how do we make the change? How do we get our word out there to these doctors and say, well, listen, we're not against you guys. We want to be on your side. Why can't we not work as a team?
Oh, that is the game-winning question for all of us as coaches. I would say, really, this is how I would approach it, and it's how I have approached it and had a lot of success. When you start talking to doctors, I like to think that it's better to nurture the relationship with the doctor before you start selling to them. And I'll explain what I mean by that. I've had a lot of experience interacting with hospitalists just because of my dad's own health battles. And I never started out with saying, hey, he needs to do this, or this is what he's been doing. And, whatever you're talking about, you're indoctrinated. I never hard start like that. It's very much getting to know them as a person. Like, hey, you hanging in there today? Like, I remember when we walked into the ER, I was talking to the ER staff. It's like, hey guys, I really appreciate what you do. I know this is tough. I don't have the stamina to be doing what you guys are doing here in the ER. But as navigating these situations, as I would go through them, being a patient advocate for my dad, I would just tell him things like, well, we have his vitals here. Would you like to see the last week or two of his, blood sugar readings and his blood pressure? And it was always very welcome because I put the ball in their court to, I guess, feel supported from me as a person on the outside. And I would always try to communicate to them that, I understand to some degree what you're doing here. I know what your goals are. And I guess it has helped me to be able to understand how an electronic health record works, just so that I can relate to them in that way. Say, hey, would this be helpful information for your charting, or just to be very human with people and say something along the lines of, man, charting's so much fun, I bet. And I guess what I'm trying to say is it's all these little micro things that I think a lot of people miss because they're focused on just throwing the javelin. But when you back up and just connect with people on a human level, they're so much more receptive to things like, hey, so, my dad's moving up to the ICU. I thought I should mention too, he's been on a low carbohydrate diet and we've seen his blood sugar get a lot better. He's lost a little bit of weight. He seems more clear in the head. What are your thoughts about that? And it gives them a chance to kind of talk about it. I think they're more open to it when you leave the floor open to hearing what they have to say and kind of come in with that attitude like, hey, I just want to listen to your take. And then it opens it up to, I guess, throwing in your court. Does that make sense?
Have you seen many ailments reversed or improved? What have you seen in your clinical experience?
Oh, that's a long list. We could have a whole podcast on that. But yeah, my goodness. Diabetes, type 2 diabetes is probably the fastest, easiest thing to reverse in my experience. Or at the, I guess I try to be careful about using the terminology reverse or what's the other word I'm looking for? Remission, putting it into a remission. So I'll say either or. Hypertension is also another one that is, in my experience, something I've witnessed to be very easy to reverse. People will come in on 2 or 3 blood pressure medications, and I don't know, in a matter of a couple of weeks, once they've really settled into, well, I say settle in, once they've started the diet, they've implemented it, we track their blood pressure readings day to day, and it's just coming down fast enough, and they're showing enough symptoms of low blood pressure that the providers will jump in and say, hey, go ahead and cut it in half. And then not long later, hey, let's go ahead and discontinue this one, and then we'll work on the next one. And it just goes like clockwork. But those are the easy tier things. So things like GERD, I would say, one of the diagnoses is like chronic back pain or joint pain, rheumatoid arthritis, really all the digestive issues and all the inflammatory joint issues, those just seem to, in most cases, just fade with time. There are, of course, some different cases where issues linger. They're progressing very slowly. They'll hit a point where they plateau out, and then they'll start to heal up again. It's kind of where the coaches come into play. We coordinate with them on the lifestyle stuff because we've found that, at least from my perspective, I will preface this with low carb, keto, carnivore, that covers the base in terms of the dietary component. And if something's lingering, it's typically some big offending source in another area of lifestyle, such as, oh, this person, well, they're experiencing a lot of back pain despite being on the diet that's well tailored, but they never leave their house. They're always in a chair, they never get sunlight, and so on.
And you mentioned the type 2s, and you're getting a lot of results there. I presume you're getting a lot of patients coming in that are severely obese, and you're working with the medical care. So how do you balance that? Because we know what's going on in the medical care at the moment. Everybody's getting pushed towards these GLP-1 injections. So where's the balance there? Are you guys been told that, okay, this could be a medical problem? Or are you guys taking full control?
So in terms of stuff like, I don't know, the GLP-1 agonist, that's not something that we manage, but the coaches and the medical providers, we do approach it from an educational standpoint. We just want to equip them with information so that they have true informed consent with the things that we don't manage. So, there are a lot of sessions where they may just ask us directly, whether in chat or on phone call, and we'll teach them about it, maybe provide some external resources, and so on, but we don't directly manage that. Things that we do cover is our medical providers can taper blood pressure medications and then, diabetes type of medications, because that does fall under our scope. But does that answer the question?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Absolutely does. Go ahead, Victoria.
Thank you. Does Revero mandate a carnivore diet? Because we get the impression, because of Dr. Baker, that might be the case. What sort of diet approaches do you practice?
I will say it is not a strictly carnivore clinic. We never try to push that on anybody. The patients, when they come in, actually have a lot of flexibility on what to choose. And then, of course, they speak with their medical provider when they first come in and discuss things like this. And then when they bump over to us as coaches, we kind of take whatever they want to do based on information that we get on lifestyle from them. What can you do? What do you want to start out with? But we do, the majority of the people on the program are carnivore. But
can I just ask one question? Is it in phases, or do you guys put them on a strict carnivore diet at the very beginning?
There's a lot of personalization here. So there's not one die-hard protocol that everybody goes on to. I would say that, people will come in typically interested in keto, in my experience, and then, after further conversation, they kind of decide they want to go carnivore. But there's not really a framework, because we do approach each person as their own case, their own scenario. So we do have people that at some point want to reintroduce carbohydrates, for example, and it may lean more towards like a paleo type of diet. So we're not encouraging processed foods. If they are going to bring back in something, it needs to be whole food. But just transparently, a lot of these folks that have gone and tried to do this, you see it reflected pretty quickly if it's working or not in their blood work, their regular blood pressure readings, their blood glucose readings. And I'd say the majority of people who have tried to reintroduce end up coming back to some form of lower carbohydrate keto or full-blown carnivore.
May I ask, what are you training the clients to do? You said you help them with their lifestyle. What tiers of information are you offering them in terms of helping them understand how to redo their lives?
Okay, so big answer to that question. Because it's the emphasis on this program is that it's very individualized, so it may look different for each person. But as a coach, I do dig into areas with them or get notes on things like their sleep habits, of course, their diet. We will look at the physical activity component, stress levels, and so on. I really like to talk to people about their sunlight exposure, and then how winter is going to affect them and kind of their compensatory mechanisms for dealing with winter and the lack of sunlight, and so on. But we will get all this information together at the get-go, and then we kind of pick a place that works for the Revero patient to start. It's very much meet them where they're at. So let's say their sleep is way out of alignment. That's something that they can't at this moment or aren't willing to dig into and make a bunch of changes. So we find an area that they can make changes in. And it's this fluid, ongoing kind of troubleshooting process until we get them snowballing across these different areas and they're able to make, commitments to do work in bigger areas. So I know that's kind of vague, but we just kind of approach it with this very flexible, fluid, we just try to keep it fluid and very individualized, because the rigidity of a program sometimes can let people fall through the cracks on a program this big with 1,000+ patients. And we don't want anybody to ever feel like they're being forced into a framework.
And do you ever get any pushback from family members when you're?
Yes,
you do. Yeah.
Yeah. But I will say that my number one tool for helping in situations like that, and I think it's very important to help with situations like that, because it's such a big stressor for the person that already feels isolated everywhere else doing this type of diet, is I offer to just talk to their family members.
Yeah.
And it's, I will say from my perspective, I don't like that the game is played this way, but it is a credentialist game in a lot of people's eyes. And so I do leverage the fact that I'm a national board certified health coach and that I work with a clinical care team, because that's what's going to open the door to these family members. And then I just answer their questions authentically, no holds barred. You can ask what you want and I'll break it down. And I have yet to have a situation where a family member at the very least didn't feel at least a little bit more confident that their loved one is being cared for and that their team that's overseeing them does genuinely care about them. But in a lot of cases, it just ends up expanding their support system, because they're like, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, and I think that's what it comes down to, doesn't it? It just comes down to just education, just sitting them down, talking them through it, and say, well, this is what I'm planning on doing. This I'm pretty sure this is going to work. It's happened to millions of people all over the world. And I think that's what it comes down to. It's just about education. You don't need to shout at these people. You don't need to say to them, okay, I'm right. But just educate them. And you made a good point with the doctors as well. Like, I've had this in the past myself. I've tried to be reasonable with these people and say, well, listen, I'll talk to them gently. But it's only when they start pushing you to the side and they start saying, like, listen, okay, you haven't got a PhD, you don't know what you're talking about. That's when I get frustrated. That's when I get really, really, and especially when you're dealing with one of my family members. I can't sit at the side knowing what I know now and just say, okay, listen, you're the expert here. It's you know what I mean? So I understand where you're coming from to try and have a conversation with these people. But once they start being too aggressive in that situation, for me personally, I can't sit back and listen to it.
Yeah. Oh, well, and to go with the point that you're making, I'm not going to pretend that it's always been sunshine and rainbows when I've dealt with doctors as well. Specifically, when my father was moved over to the rehabilitation hospital post-stroke, they wanted to get him on statins. And I tried being nice with the prescribing doctor, but I ended up having to go to war. And I printed out a bunch of studies, and I printed out kind of my own, I don't want to say dumbed down, but just more digestible explanation as to why I specifically don't think that statins are going to be beneficial to him as he's trying to recover from stroke. And I think I got lucky in this situation, because I came locked and loaded, ready to go. And when I took out the paperwork and when I kind of topically explained, like, why I don't think that he should be specifically on Lipitor, it's going to cross the blood-brain barrier better than some of the others, and then it's going to inhibit his brain's ability to produce cholesterol. And I could rattle on forever, because I printed out like 4 sheets of stuff that I typed up. And I was met with, okay, fine, we're just going to document that he doesn't want to take it. And I'll take that over him getting bullied into taking it.
Yes.
But I agree. There's a time.
But the way I see it is, Rance, you saved his life.
I appreciate that. I mean, I will say he's recovered in the last few months better than any other stroke patient they'd seen, according to the staff that I talked to.
Good. There's your evidence right there.
That's what it all comes down to. Like, he's still here. He's still thriving. So, you know what I mean? What other evidence do you want?
Yeah, it should not be dismissed, but and I guess in the mainstream it often is.
And see that, and isn't that amazing, isn't it? Like, we have over 1 million people now in the world that are thriving this way, and yet it's still not going worldwide. It's still not on the news. Everybody's still pushing the agenda of the food pyramid. We all should be eating food in moderation. We're still getting pushed to the sides. It's just incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, it's absolutely ludicrous, but I will say I have a little bit of hope, just because, to protect identities and jobs. I can't name names, but there were a lot of people in that hospital setting here locally that I ran into that were open to keto. A lot of nurses, because I think nurses are in a way are like the original health coach, but they were more open to some of these lifestyle things. And it doesn't tell this story, but there was a particular person that helped me get steak to him.
Really?
Wow.
And yes, I have to leave it there. I want to protect their job because they're in a perfect position as the climate hopefully changes. But I have two friends as well I was talking to over Thanksgiving, and they're both not far away from having their MDs. And it was wonderfully refreshing to talk to them because they are the next generation of doctors. But they had talked to me about how there was more talk of ketogenic nutrition therapy and how health coaches actually make a lot of sense for filling this huge gap in the conventional medical system right now, because behavior change doesn't happen talking to somebody every 6 months in the doctor's office for 10 minutes. And to be able to support somebody every day just fills all the gaps, just to give somebody some guidance, because I think that there's nothing really in place right now, unless somebody's an autodidact and just hunts day and night on their own. There's nothing really in place to improve their health literacy effectively and consistently. But I think that's where health coaches step in.
And I think that's the most important thing is, for us as health coaches, you're giving these people hope instead of them letting them rot and die and end up in the care home. And you're just giving these people hope. You're like, okay, you're getting older, but you can still thrive when you get older.
Yes.
You know, you can still feel incredible. It doesn't need to stop when you're in your 50s or 60s. Why can't you not just do this when you're in your 70s and 80s? It's happening already.
Absolutely.
You know, I've always said this. Like, I remember about 10 years ago, before I got into Carnivore, I was worried. I was worried about my 50s and 60s. I was like, okay, I'm going to end up in a care home. I'm going to end up losing my memory. I'm actually looking forward to it now.
Me too. I'm
really looking forward to it now.
Excited.
Yeah.
Well, and to give an example, we have men and women patients who are in their, upper 70s, earlier 80s, and they're working out resistance training 3 times a week. So, and I've worked in nursing homes in my past, and there's such a stark contrast between this demographic within the patient population and the people that I saw in nursing homes. So it's beautiful. It gives hope. And something that you said is just being able to give people hope and working with them as health coaches. The foundation of everything that I do is from a perspective of, it's almost selfish. I love to love people. I like to just shower them with, I guess, not just encouragement, because, a health coach can't just be a cheerleader. We got to hold people accountable, but any chance I get to shower love through whatever it may be, whether it be a chat message or a voice message, or just listening to them with genuine desire to understand in my heart. I can't tell you the number of times that I ended a call with somebody, and because my intention the whole time was just to give this person love, because I don't know what their life has been like. I don't know what they're going through today. I don't know the traumas they've dealt with in their youth. I can't think of a call that didn't end in both parties feeling warm. So I'll admit, I'm getting something out of it too, because that feeds my soul when somebody else is happy. But we just get the chance to love people in a world that typically doesn't.
Yeah. And you made a very good point as well, Rance, about health coaches, because as we know, there's so many of them in the world at the moment. There's just so many. And when you look at the help that these people are getting, they may be getting the help that these people might be actually talking to these people, but you can be damn sure they're either on a list of supplements or they're on a list of medication. Yeah. So they're being pointed in that direction. They're not being pointed towards, okay, this is the problem right here. The food that you're eating at the moment is the cause. They're actually encouraging that.
Yeah.
They're saying there's nothing wrong with the food that you're eating. That's not the problem here. The problem here is this is a medical problem. So we're going to help you. We're going to talk to you, and we're going to guide you, and we're going to bring you down this medication route. Whereas with us, we're removing all that.
Mhm.
We're focusing on, okay, this is where the damage is coming from. You don't know this until you actually remove this out of your life, first of all. And we all three of us know this. Like, we know what proper health is because we're going through it. We feel amazing. I mean, I feel like a 21-year-old again. I just feel incredible. That's what I call real health. I call real health that I don't need to wake up in the morning. Or sorry, I struggle to get up out of bed in the mornings. I'm walking around with back pain, knee pain, arthritis. I'm always hungry. That to me is what proper health is. I don't have any symptoms. I have no diseases. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
I'm in the best
Yeah.
health possible.
Yeah, me
Whereas
too.
if
At
that,
74, it's amazing.
but that's what I'm saying. You ask the average person who's been looked after by a dietitian or a coach or a health coach or anything. I can guarantee you, most of them are on medication.
Yeah.
Most of them, no doubt about it.
Polypharmacy everywhere.
And they're not questioning, okay, why am I on medication to look after my health? Surely this can be done through food alone. It can, but they're not getting the right information. They've been told not to do it.
They get a sense of security from taking that medication. Someone told me a story the other day about their relative who was confronted by the doctor who said, you know, you can control your type 2 diabetes through diet if you cut back the sugar. And the response from the relative was, no, I'll just keep taking the medication because I really enjoy my pastry and sugar. And they get lulled into a sense of security that this is okay. They're going to be fine as long as they take their medicine. And that's a really bad issue.
Yeah, it's really, really terrible. It's really, really terrible. Well, Rance, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on. Where can people go to find you?
I am over on Instagram. That's probably my most active area. It's, you can find me at rance.fsh. And I guess I never mentioned that FSH is the abbreviation for my private coaching practice, Full Spectrum Human. But you can find me there. You can find me on Facebook, just my name. And that's pretty much it.
And what's in the pipeline for yourself now in the next couple of months?
Oh, goodness. Well, I am kind of dialing back on my private practice, actually, just to sink more time into supporting Revero. And then there is one other place that I want to throw out there because I think we've all had experiences with mental health. But there's a place called Metabolic Solutions that I'm also working on their team for functional mental health. And so that's kind of where my next couple of months are looking.
Very interesting.
Yeah, because that's a big topic. That's another podcast that we could do at the moment as well on mental health. That's a big one as well. Like, yeah, there's a lot of people struggling at the moment, big time.
Oh yeah,
and a lot of people are saying it's down to oxidative stress and has nothing to do with the diet. We know who these people are.
Oof.
It's just it's crazy.
Yeah,
totally agree. But I don't know, we're gonna change the world, right?
That's why we're here.
I hope so. Yes, we intend to.
If I could throw one quick thought out there, I think if I had to say something a little bit brash, it's that health coaches, people in our space, we're just combating the definition of madness, which is doing the same thing over and over and over, expecting a different outcome. Yeah. We're just trying to get people learning the way they're supposed to and experimenting and troubleshooting and giving them informed consent where they deserve it.
Yeah, 100%. At the end of the day, it's not working. We all know it's not working. And this is what people need to understand. And this is what we have to do with these podcasts. Just spread awareness. We've always said this, myself and Victoria have always said this. We're never going to force this on anybody. We just want you to listen to these people's stories. These are real people. This is real evidence, and you can make up your own mind.
Absolutely.
That's it. Simple as that.
Oh, I love it.
Well, Rance, it's been an absolute pleasure. I wish you all the best with your the Revero business. Keep doing what you're doing. You're making a difference to the world. I've watched a little bit of your social media. You give out amazing content. So keep up the battle, buddy.
Yes.
Thank you so much.
You.
Oh, it's been an honor to be on, and just thank you for your kindness. It makes more of a difference than you realize for me to hear that. So thank you so much.
Yeah,
Wow.
absolute pleasure.
Appreciate
Absolute pleasure, buddy. We'll speak soon.
Thank you.
Sounds
All right,
good.
guys. Thank you so
Bye bye.
much.
Bye bye. Bye bye.